Hey guys, welcome back. Imagine spending $40,000 on a single Nvidia Blackwell GPU only to realize that it's a useless piece of silicon because there's no one around that can wrap it. Most investors, they think the AI trade is over once the chip leaves the factory, but they are dead wrong. In today's market right now, we are facing what's known as the CoWoS Wall. It's a major constraint, a major bottleneck with regards to advanced packaging. But I'm going to introduce two invisible giants in the market right now that are trying to help move the market through this bottleneck. But most retail investors have not heard of these companies. They are Amkor and ASE Technology. And right now, these two companies act as the final mile in the AI trade. If you missed the Nvidia rally in 2023, 2024, you cannot afford to miss on companies like Amkor and ASE Technologies that are literally moving the market through bottlenecks and literally working to make chips work. Without companies like Amkor and ASE Technologies and others, the AI revolution would literally grind to a halt. So today's video, we're going to take a deeper dive into these companies, and I'm going to show you why I've been recommending them on the channel for the last few weeks. Of course, you have to do your own research. As I've said many times, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just a gentleman with 30 years of investing experience, but I am going to share my thoughts and why I've been following these companies to bring more insights, to bring more knowledge to you, to hopefully make you a better investor. But make sure you do your own research. Make sure it fits your own individual risk tolerance and it's the right fit for your portfolio. But first, let's dive in and talk about why advanced packaging is an invisible problem in the market overall. Guys, this is an easy one. It's just not as sexy as the brains of GPUs and CPUs. It doesn't catch the headlines of those companies like Nvidia, AMD, Intel. It doesn't catch the headlines of memory companies like Micron and Samsung and SK Hynix and Seagate and Western Digital and SanDisk. But the reality is that most investors ignore the OSATs, the outsourced semiconductor assembly and test companies like Amkor and ASE Technology. These stocks just, frankly, they just fly under the radar for the vast majority of retail investors. It's because for the past 30 years, packaging and testing, it has been a low margin commodity business. It's been very boring, but that has changed in 2026. The physics have changed in 26, and what we're building has changed. We're no longer making flat chips. We are now making 3D silicon skyscrapers in the market. Most retail investors, they look at advanced packaging as industrial plumbing. And that's why the average investor just frankly ignores it. They find it boring. But it is a massive bottleneck right now. And these companies I'm going to highlight are trying to help solve the issue. But before we even talk about that, we have to understand why they're critical, why they're important. It's because of the monopolies that we see in the market right now, the monopolies of the AI supercycle. There's two companies right now that hold the entire world hostage in the AI trade. Can you guess those two companies? Drop them in the comments below. But those two companies are ASML and TSMC. ASML, as you know, has 100% monopoly on the EUV machines that actually literally print the chips. And TSMC, they're a massive company, a massive foundry. But did you know that 80% of the world's advanced packaging for AI moves through their shops? That may surprise you because it did for me at first when I read it, but they are a massive bottleneck overall. And then, frankly, they can't meet the capacity or the demand in the marketplace. CoWoS is sold out. They've said to most big hyperscalers and big partners that they cannot have any more chips move through advanced packaging, I think through 2027. But the interesting part is TSMC, like the secret of it is they do not want a monopoly on packaging because it is too capital intensive and low margin for them. Their foundry wants to focus on developing the 2 nm silicon. This is why they're actively deputizing their partners. They're physically offshoring or offloading the lower end CoWoS and substrate processes to Amkor and to ASE Technologies, so they can free up their own clean rooms for the next generation of chips. So when you buy an OSAT like Amkor and ASE, when you invest in a company like this, you are not betting against TSMC's monopoly. You are betting on the fact that the monopoly is overflowing and that Amkor and ASE, they're the ones that'll be able to catch the billions of dollars that are overflowing or spilling over and be able to put those revenues onto their balance sheets overall. Most retail investors have been watching companies like Nvidia trade sideways for months. We know that they've moved up recently, but the reality is they've been in that sideways move for months until probably the last 2 or 3 weeks. But what most retail investors haven't realized is that Amkor just hit a new all-time high this last week of 67.37 a share, and they are up almost 130% this year. And ASE Technology, they also just hit a new 52-week high on April 14th. These are not just advanced packaging companies. They're not just chip companies. These two are the physical architects of the AI supercycle. They are meeting a massive demand in the marketplace, and that's why I've been recommending them on the channel and recommending our viewers on this channel to just take a look at these two companies. So first, let's take a look at Amkor. I'm going to pull up just their most recent chart. You can see at the top of the screen, $67.37 a share. They're up for almost $4.50 on Friday, about a 7% increase overall. But you can also see underneath just the massive growth that the company has had over the last few. I mean, in the 3 months up over 40%, 1 month 30%. You can see it on the screen there. The other thing I'll call out is they have not been re-rated yet. So they're still trading above the fair value and above the analyst estimate. So most analyst estimate have it about 57 a share. You can see they're trading at 67 share, but they do have a buy rating on the stock overall. But these stocks, in my opinion, I'll show you both. They just have not been re-rated overall, in my opinion. But Amkor is the second largest packager in the entire world. But more importantly, it is the largest that is based in the U.S. And as of this weekend, Amkor just solidified its position as the geopolitical safe haven. So they're investing, they're almost tripling their investment in the U.S. to build a new fab within the Arizona marketplace. And Jansen said himself that this facility will be the defining milestone in bringing the AI supply chain home. Amkor is moving from a 6% growth to a guided 25% revenue surge in Q1 of this year. You cannot talk, though, about Amkor without talking about TSMC and a massive power move for the U.S. sovereignty. These two giants signed a landmark agreement to bring end-to-end manufacturing to Arizona. TSMC is they're world-class at making wafers, but they are currently CoWoS constrained, as I said in the beginning of the video. They cannot wrap these fast enough. So under the deal, TSMC handles the high margin front end work, and they hand the baton to Amkor's $7 billion Peoria facility. And I can show you on the screen, just announced that they're expanding their Arizona facility they had a $2 billion investment. They're actually expanding it now to a $7 billion investment. And what's even more important here, let me show you this picture, is just the proximity of their facility to where TSMC is building out their foundry in the U.S. This is going to be a massive partnership between these two companies where TSMC will build the wafer, and instead of shipping it back to Taiwan to have it packaged, they'll just move it down the street here in Arizona and have Amkor do all the packaging for them. So as I said, this isn't just a partnership between these companies. It's a physical pipeline that allows Nvidia and Apple to build a chip in Phoenix and package it in Peoria, in Arizona, without ever having to put it on a boat to Asia. Amkor has essentially become TSMC's secret weapon for clearing the AI backlog on American soil. Now, as skeptics, you might say, Kevin, this facility hasn't been built yet. Like the Peoria plant, it doesn't start production until 2028. So why buy it now? And here's what I would say, that in the stock market, you don't wait for the ribbon cutting. You buy the construction of the moats. Amkor is already grading the land. The steel erection starts next month. They are recruiting 3,000 engineers right now to prep for tool installation in 2027. In fact, Amkor, as I mentioned, they tripled their investment from $2 billion to $7 billion, and that towards the end of last year, to keep up with TSMC's expansion in the marketplace. They're going to collaborate on critically important aspects from TSMC, like InFO or integrated fan out and CoWoS as well, the exact tech that is needed for the Vera Rubin and the Blackwell chips. By the time the first trip rolls off the line for in their new facility, the easy money will already have been made. So right now, if you invest in Amkor, the way I'm looking at it, in my opinion at least, is that you're buying the capacity certainty that massive players like Apple and Nvidia, they crave so much. So that's the first piece, or why I'm so high on Amkor overall. But now let's talk about ASE Technology. And if Amkor was the boutique specialist, we'll say, ASE is the heavyweight champion of the world. They are the scale play. ASE just reported a staggering 30% year-over-year surge in their ATM, their assembly, testing, and materials revenue. They have branded their AI-specific services as LEAP, leading edge advanced packaging. They expect LEAP to hit $3.2 billion by the end of this year, nearly doubling from last year. And you might think that the packaging is risky, right? If you took a $40,000 chip from Nvidia, and what if you broke it? We know the yields are so important in this space, but this is exactly the type of moat that ASE has, because they are a trusted partner. Stacking memory on a logic chip is high stakes. And if you mess up the yield, you lose millions. But ASE is winning because they have the highest yield consistency in the world. TSMC isn't just handing them the work because they're busy. They're handing it over to them because they trust ASE Technologies not to break the most valuable silicon on Earth. And let me show you their ticker as well on what they are trading. So you can see ASE is a Taiwan company, so they trade under an ADR here in the US, but their ticker is ASX. You can see they traded at $28.59 on Friday, up about $1, up about just over 3.5%. But again, also haven't been truly re-rated yet. But you can see the massive growth underneath. 1 week, 15%, over 30% for the month. 3 months, about a 50% growth. But they are both analyst estimates is a strong buy. Technical analysis for the last time they traded was a strong buy. But they are trading over their price targets, both from an analyst as well as their fair price target. So just to be in full transparency there for you. So the question is, do they deserve a spot in your portfolio? Here's the bottom line that the way I look at it is the physics wall of AI means that the chips are getting hotter and more complex to connect overall. When giants like Intel are now collaborating with Amkor to scale their EMIB packaging, Amkor and ASE Technologies aren't competitors to these giants. They are the overflow valves to keep the entire system from bursting. And in many cases, they act as the glue to the AI stack, and they solve the physical problem of interconnection. So as Nvidia moves to the Vera Rubin architecture next year in 2027, the packaging complexity will triple again. These companies, they're not just the picks and the shovels. They are the gatekeepers to the entire industry. They're so needed to move through this advanced packaging bottleneck that we see. So I got reality in April of this year, where we sit today, let's say, is the AI rally is evolving. The easy money and the big name chip makers have been made. The market now is searching for structural pillars that hold the entire industry up. And in my opinion, Amkor and ASE Technologies, they are a few of those structural pillars. Whether it's the $7 billion geopolitical fortress that Amkor is building in Arizona, or the $3.2 billion in LEAP revenue explosion that is happening right now for ASE Technologies, these companies own the physical transition from 2D silicon to 3D skyscrapers. You can bet on software or you can bet on physics. Right now, I'm leaning my portfolio more towards the physics side of the trade and where bottlenecks show up in the market, because I think that's what we have to solve. And I think that's where money will rotate to overall. But as you know, guys, on this channel, a huge congrats to each and every one of you, because we flew past the 6,000 subscribers we wanted in April. And it's the reason we flew past it is because of these types of videos where we just don't highlight the household names, the names that everyone else talks about across YouTube. We highlight where the real value plays are in the market. This isn't about just picking stocks. It's about understanding the architecture of the future and understanding that before the rest of the world catches on. So if you want to be here when this channel hits 10,000, which we're shooting for as our next goal. Let's see how quickly we can get there. I'd like to see if we can do it before the end of the summer. But if you want to be on this channel when we hit that goal and be part of this community, make sure you hit subscribe. You turn on your button for notifications so you get all of my new videos. And I've got one more final question for you. So based on what we just heard, are you betting on, do you think the US-based fortress of Amkor or the global scale of ASE Technology? Which one do you think is a better bet? Which one are you want to follow when the opening bell rings on Monday? Or maybe it's another stock that you're tracking right now. Drop that in the comment, because I would love to hear what each and every one of you are looking at right now, what you're tracking within your portfolios, where you think money is going to rotate in the future overall. But let me know what you're looking at this week. I'm going to be answering questions all night tonight, so drop a comment below. I hope you guys had a great weekend, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care.